So if you guys would, one by one, just each introduce yourself, tell everybody what you did, what your capacity was through the film, and how you all know each other. Meaning, are you friends together or you just work together? Tell me the dichotomy of all this.
Sure. Let me start this off. My name is Ajay Govind. I'm one of the Ajays on this call.
Yes.
And I'm the writer-director of this film. This film is actually made in a Malayalam language, which is a language that's spoken in one of the Indian states, the South Indian state. Yeah, so that's essentially kind of my quick bio, quick background.
Okay. Yeah. And AJ number 2?
I know Ajay and I, the director, we met at a film festival, at a film bazaar
market,
which is like a film market.
Yes.
And I really loved his work. There's another film he's made after the third bell. I really loved it, and I told him, I met him, I said, hey, if you ever do anything, please let me know if you have a role that is suitable for me. I would love to work with you. It's just that, I'm a big fan of the way his storytelling is very subtle. It's not it's never on the face, and there's so much of scope for the audience to make their own interpretation. I really like that about his work. So I met him, I said, hey, you know what, you have something for me, just let me know. Actually, Malayalam is, I'm not very comfortable with the language, but I said, hey, I'll still just take me in the movie. I'll work with the language. And that's how the movie happened.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
And Tanvir, can you tell us a bit about what your capacity is with the crew, and how, of course, you got to be working with AJ?
All right. So I did the camera work for this film.
Okay.
And yeah, and Ajay and me, I think we met almost about like 14 to 15 years ago.
Oh my gosh.
While we were doing college. Yeah.
Okay.
That was I think post-graduation days. We just stumbled upon each other through a common friend. And since then, I think very often, or rather I'd say most often, we've been working and collaborating together on a project. And so this one happened, I think, on a very similar note, where Ajay had something, and I really liked it. As Ajay was also Ajay was saying, that's kind of a very simple storytelling format, and yet exciting. So we had fun with it.
Oh, I imagine. One of the things that we talk a lot about here in the United States, and I've never been to your country as of yet, not been invited, but one of the things that fascinates me so much is a lot of the international filmmakers have a tremendous gift for being able to transpose things onto a camera in a picture in such a magnificent way. Clarity in terms of audio, in terms of cinematography. It's just so top par. So I'm curious to ask, in your neck of the woods, in your country, how challenging is it? Because I do hear stories about how it can be a real challenge to try to put cinema together there. What was that experience like for you folks?
So I have a friend who has a very close friend who has studied with me in college, and he works with sort of kind of a list of Hollywood cinema. In terms of, he has worked with 0-30 and all of that league of cinema, and the kind of experience he has shared. So more or less, I would say, like across the globe, doing cinema is always challenging, and it's a huge humongous kind of a task one has to accomplish, bringing in life on a piece of cinema. Now, having said that, each country, I'm sure, because of the nature of the production, that decide upon the challenges. Especially talking from India, I would say there are a lot of challenges, because as compared to the kind of industry you have in US, and the kind of the industry we have, I would say, in terms of at the organization level, there are challenges. More than that, I would say, because India, especially when you talk about India, we have plenty of languages to deal with. So while we have one actor on board who is not comfortable, and we have multiple, like number of hundred of probably languages. Especially for me, somebody who comes from North. I mean, I have to reread the script and understand sort of the mood in a different language, because that's not my language. You know, I don't. And while the actually actors are, while we are filming, I have no clue whether any kind of like, you know, things have gone wrong in terms of the dialogue delivery, or if the dialogue is really smooth or not. I have to just like, you know, look around to see if things are weather, another this thing, because in India, I mean, this is the coastal part of South India, which is humidity is probably coming from North India, New Delhi and all. We have a different kind of the weather, but we have not experienced, personally, I have not experienced that kind of humidity. I remember, I mean, shooting few on few occasions. I was really like, you know, I mean, I was on the verge of giving up, saying, I mean, come on, I cannot bear it anymore. So I have to always keep like a couple of bottles of different energy drinks and stuff to sustain there. And as also I'll say that as an indie filmmaker, you know, I mean, when we are sort of like, you know, trying to pull in a lot of resources to sort of like, you know, pull off what we wanted to say, there are limitations. There are a number of limitations, which we generally fight on a daily basis. So if that's what you wanted to ask about the kind of challenges.
Oh, absolutely.
That's what I've experienced, but I'm sure both Ajay can pitch in that, in terms of the challenges we face.
Oh yes, please go ahead.
So so that, of course, I think that's a good place for me to firstly bring about the fact that this film happened because I had two co-producers with me, who were sort of immediately on board when I narrated the idea to them. Sharmila Nair, who's based in Kerala and has a production house there. And in fact, we were just kind of generally chatting, and we kind of came up with a number, and we said, okay, if we're able to put this much amount of money together, we should be able to make it, you know. And
Sure.
And I spoke to the third co-producer, with whom we had made another project earlier, and he also sort of immediately agreed. So I think the challenges of independent cinema, and I was listening to one of your earlier panels, remain the same everywhere, you know, especially because it's not studio backed. You have absolutely no sense of what's going to happen with the distribution.
Sure.
The festival circuit is a blind shot, you know what I mean? Like, with what happens and what doesn't happen, you just kind of keep sending the film out there, and you hope that somebody's going to see it, and you know, and give it the kind of time that it needs, and so on. So those challenges, I think, remain. But I think in the Indian context, what also helps, at least especially with this film, I think, because we made it in a place like Kerala, I think a film like this, if we were making in another language, would have been a little difficult, because I think the audience, the Malayalam speaking audience, the audience that this film from that place is very cinema educated. So there is that level of confidence. I feel like if I was making the same film in Hindi, I would probably feel a little more like this is really kind of pushing it, you know, because like Ajay mentioned, and you know, to make something that's very subtle or sort of abstract, but not really, you know, as far as I'm concerned, it's not really that. I think it's pretty, like I said, it really is very, very clear as far as I'm concerned. So I think those are some of the challenges that one faces, and it's about finding the right people to collaborate with. And I think, like Tanveer said, we've been collaborating for 10, 15 years now. It was our first production with Sharmila and another producer, and an entire crew of people, including, of course, the actors. I mean, the day that Tanveer is speaking about with the heat, I remember that was the day we shot that dining room with Ajay. My God, that was one hot day, and with all the lights in that room, you know, and that's the challenge of it, right? That moment, you just there is a moment when you wonder why you're doing all of this, you know.
I get it. I do. I
Yeah,
totally get it.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, why do an anthology? Why not take all of these stories and mash them together and just make one short film? What was the importance or the significance to you that it is done in an anthology format?
Actually, to me, when I started to think about these stories, they were really very independent episodes that spoke about something very specific, you know, whether it be the mansplaining of, in the food, in Ajay's story, when he's teaching the woman how to cook, even though he doesn't go into the kitchen himself. And you know, and or the other story where the man is kind of talking about everywhere that he's been. I felt like it was very important to keep them very concise, and I just thought that these episodes in themselves were working well. And if
Sure.
I'd probably brought them together, you know, the messages may have got diluted, or yeah, I felt like the impact may have got diluted. So for me, it was very important that these stories were told. I did contemplate releasing them separately, though,
Mm.
but then that just felt like a lot of work again, right?
Oh, I
Like each
imagine.
film is, you know, like each film has to have a different packaging and send it to festivals, da da da. So then, and they were conceived together, so it made sense to kind of, you know, put them the way that we did.
Oh, you betcha.
Um,
Now, in terms of
yeah.
the shooting process, because I've never been on set where you actually put something like that together individually, did you shoot it all in phases, or did you have a particular storyboard up and you said, all right, we'll just pick and choose? Or what was that process like as far as both the shooting as well as with the editing? I can imagine that was probably quite the chore as well.
Yes, so it was shot in 3 days back to back because the
Okay,
production had to be put together that way.
sure.
So it was a lot of work in terms of course, coordinating, because there's multiple actors, multiple locations. We tried our best. I think we were able to shoot in one location, which is the first story, the salesman story, and the living room story.
Yes.
This is how we were referring to the stories back then also. So, you know, the living room story and the salesman story were done in the same location, inside outside. So yeah, so it was all done 3 days back to back, with a lot of these different actors coming in and out and things like that. Yeah.
I imagine. Now, were you working side by side with the editor, or did the editor have kind of his own image in his head saying, okay, I'm going to edit this, put it together, and then show it to you, AJ, and then we kind of go from there? So how hands-on were you in terms of the cutting process?
Yeah, so the editor also is again another, like, somebody who I've been collaborating with for a while. So he was on set the whole time,
Okay.
which really helped me further economize on the shot taking, because he knows exactly where we're going to cut and so on. So that was really. But we didn't edit at the same time. We edited a little later.
Oh, sure.
But he was very involved during the process of the shoot itself. Yeah.
You betcha. Now, who is responsible for scoring the film in terms of picking and selecting the various auto components to it? And moreover, where is this one musician or a collage of musicians?
It's one musician, and it's an original score
Okay.
that he has created for the film. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
It's someone called Nitin Menon. Yeah.
I
He's
gotcha.
based out of New Delhi.
I gotcha.
And again, Nitin and I have also collaborated earlier on multiple projects. So he scored the entire piece. And yeah, Nitin again has a great understanding of scoring for films, even though he's a corporate guy in a full-time job. That's what
Okay.
that's his day job. But
Oh,
the way he
cool.
just, especially that last film, you know, the last silent film with the coconut guy. I mean, it's just the way he just really lifted that film.
Sure.
And added so much drama musically. Yeah. I absolutely loved it.
Oh, I imagine so. Now, when I watched the movie, and of course the judges, I've obviously seen what the judges had to say, and of course when I've watched it myself, one of the things that stands out so much is that there's so much said without words, without warning, and more importantly, it touches you, whether it's story number 1 or story number 5. So whichever character comes in, whichever story that you're watching, it has a magnetizing effect as far as that goes. Now, if I were to ask all of you, which story stands out most to you, or which one do you feel is the best representation? Meaning, if you look at all 5 of these and say, you know what, this is my favorite. This one we did the best on. This is where we really hit the mark. I mean, you obviously hit the mark in all 5 because you're here. But personally, because you worked on set, all of you, what stands out to you most from this film? What are you most proud of?
Tanveer, why don't you start this one off?
No, for this, I think is not a very interesting stuff for me, because I'm kind of a very difficult person when it comes to choosing one. So I think all of them, for me, all of them is as memorable as I think I enjoyed myself.
Oh, absolutely.
So I will not pick it up. Technically, yes. I mean, there was 1 or 2 films which I probably faced a lot of challenges while approaching it. But then it's part of the process. That's part of the fun that you on a daily basis, you sort of like, you know, take those challenges up front and say that, okay, let's deal with it. So not that way. All of them being a DP, I would say I wanted to keep it very simple. I
Sure.
wanted the story because the story has got a very subtle way of it's a story. If you look at the inner side, I mean, which is not very on your face as what Ajay Fortes is all about. I mean, the films is touching upon a lot of issues like the old age, gender, the kind of as a community we face on a daily basis.
Mm,
But I just wanted to keep the camera work and everything as simple as possible
sure.
without really just getting into it. So all of them are really close to me. I will not pick one of them,
Gotcha. I
and
understand. How
not
about
just
you,
because
AJ?
this. Go ahead.
No, no, I totally get what you mean, though. That makes perfect sense. It is hard when you look at all of them because they're so very diverse and different, but dynamic in their own way. So I can imagine it's probably tough. And you're emotionally attached to the project. You know, I'm a judge, etc. But AJ, let's get your input. What are your thoughts on that?
Ajay, go ahead.
Oh no, can you hear him?
Yeah. So,
Okay.
I mean, actually have a. I'm sorry. I love all of it, but I really like the one with the old lady,
Oh yeah.
and the boy.
Yes.
Because when you see, I mean, when you see people at that age, they want to be around. They want to be around children. They want to be around their loved ones.
Sure.
But we live at a time where it's so convenient for. And in India, it's still better off, I would say, where the children just go off and they start their own life, and then it becomes such a formal sort of meeting,
Hmm.
and here when that lady now she's developed a sort of relationship with the music player, I think with Alexa. She just says, she asks Alexa to play a song which just which suits so she develops that, so to fill that void in a way she's developed that relationship, which I've been close to my grandparents and I've always visited them very often, that story, really struck a major chord with me in terms of, how human nature is, and how we cope with things in a way that we can, because she knows like that boy is doesn't seem that keen, so she in whatever way, like she plays the music and she's keeping things going. So I really like that story.
Oh
That's my
yeah.
yeah.
You betcha. I give a lot of credit to filmmakers that oftentimes choose to work with animals and children because I'm like, it's, adults are temperamental enough and can be challenging. And then you try bringing in kids, animals, things like that. When you were working with children on set, was that an easier experience for you? Because I always get mixed reviews from filmmakers like, oh, it was wonderful. Or, if a child's not ready, it could take hours and hours, right, for you to be able to get the shot in.
Yeah. So for me, actually, to answer your first question first, just really quickly, it's the third story the last story that kind of came together really well.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason being, we worked with a non-actor on that one. So that's an actual person who kind of plucks coconuts. That's what he does.
Oh, nice.
So there was a great deal of kind of a sense of being just uncertain about what you're going to get, right? Because you've written this piece and you're working with a non-actor who has no sense of what you're trying to do, right? Because he's just doing what he does and then going on to have an ice cream at the end of it. And again, he has no idea why he's doing that.
Yes.
So for me, that was the one that sort of came together really well. Working with kids, it was actually one of the kids was first timer. The other one was like sort of a pro. He had done enough ad films. So the working with kids bit was fine, but working with the older people was quite challenging. And
I bet.
And Tanveer and I happened to shoot another film after this with another old person, and we had our share of challenges, with them just forgetting the lines. In fact, I remember the first film, the first story, was not supposed to end the way it ended. When we were shooting it, because the actor just kept forgetting his lines, it just started becoming very absurd to me. So him saying, now I'm done, which is what the last line of the film is, I'm done now or whatever, was earlier a very sad kind of I'm done. But then I changed that to, let's just have him laugh and kind of say it, because it's now become absurd. The film
Sure.
had become absurd. So yeah, so working with older people was definitely slightly challenging compared to working with kids. Yeah.
Oh, I imagine. Now, I'm intrigued to ask clearly because I'm in the United States. So I'm wondering the difference, meaning how has the movie been received in the States versus within your own country? What's the response? How goes it on both sides of the fence?
So we've done this was our 8th festival. In fact, after this festival, now we have a release on a YouTube channel, which is a
Yes.
popular YouTube channel in India.
Mhm.
And so the festival responses have been good. We were semi-finalists in 2 and a finalist in another festival,
Sure.
which I'm quite happy about. And like I said, the festival run is anyway such a blind shot that 8 is 8 more than I had expected.
Oh, nice.
Yes. So as far as I'm concerned, I'm quite happy with the way it's been received. In terms of once the YouTube release happens,
Mhm.
I'm really curious to see how people respond. If some of these, because like I said, to me, everything just jumps out so obviously.
Yes.
And I'm just very curious to see if that's the case for other people.
Oh, you betcha. And of course, now when that goes on the YouTube channel, is that specific to India or is it all over across the country? Meaning, will you utilize a United States distributor as well?
No, it's a worldwide distribution sort of a thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very, very exciting and very cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so my real question is now, so what's up next now? Now that you've had the 8 runs, etc., what's on your plate next? Where do you go from here in terms of what else is cooking?
So we actually have just released a music video that we had worked on, Tanveer and I had worked on, and that's doing quite well. It's released on a pretty well-known YouTube platform here by a big studio. And so that's doing pretty well. And we have a short film, which is again in Malayalam language, which again Tanveer and I worked on together, which I co-directed with somebody else. And incidentally, it's also revolving around death and funerals. So that's a film that we're looking forward to. That's what's happening next for us.
Oh, very nice. And as far as the circuit itself for the 8 festivals, how have you done so far? Awards, recognition, etc. How is it faring?
So finalists in 1 and semi-finalists in 2 is what the count is so far. Yeah,
I gotcha. Now, are you planning to come to the awards night on Sunday, or are you guys able? Because I know that's late, so I'm not sure how that equates to India time.
I think we will be. I've informed most of the cast and crew. In fact,
it's like
more
9
people should be
something or
able to
whatever.
be.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes,
You betcha.
Yeah.
Oh, you bet. Now, my last question for you is, if somebody, whether it's United States or India, wherever they are in the world, and they see this, what is the most important thing that you want them to take away from watching your film?
Tanveer, do you want to chip into that one first?
No, please. That's your. I think you should.
Okay.
You should talk.
So, I just want, I just wish that people would be able to reflect and identify this absurdity in real life, especially like I said in the cultural context that we live in. A lot of people will be called if someone else do it and stop it if they themselves do it. That's probably what I'd say. Yeah. So as you know, so have a more sort of an impactful, apart from of course just enjoying the film and the way it's shot and the way it's acted and so on and the music. I just wish what it's saying kind of jumps at people. Yeah.
Gotcha. I understand. Now, if anybody who watches this panel or anyone here wants to get in contact with all 3 of you, how do they find you on social media or otherwise?
Well, I am on Instagram as Handwritten with a single T, and our production house is called Sisyphus Rocks Films, and we're also on Instagram.
Okay.
What about you guys, Tanveer?
Okay.
I'm also available on Insta as Tanveer TNWWER210.
Okay.
Yeah, and kind of a very easy, accessible person if people wanted to really find me.
Look at that. And AJ, as far as you, how do people find you?
I'm on Insta as I'm not too active. I find it too vain, so I'm not that active on Instagram, but you can find me if you want to as MS Ajay Shankar on Instagram.
That's wonderful. My gosh. So let me leave you
I
folks with
must
this.
add,
Yes.
sorry, I must add, since in the introduction to his own introduction, Ajay spoke more about me than himself. Ajay is also a theater teacher, and he teaches in schools in Mumbai.
Oh, nice.
So, yeah, and it's so typically Ajay as an actor to say that, he finds Instagram vain. That says so much about him as a
Oh my
human being.
gosh. Look at that.
But yeah, yes.
So what I do want to share with you folks is obviously, of course, I had an opportunity to score the film along with my other judges, of course. So one of the things that stood out about your film to them, cinematography, without a doubt. Not that they did not like the story or the casting, etc., but the way it was shot, the way it sounded, in addition to which they loved the flow of this. It's not often that I hear judges talk about the transition from one scene to another scene to another scene is cut so perfectly and put in such a way where the audience is captivated and continues to watch with great attention. That's a very big deal. On top of which, timing was absolutely perfect. The other thing that I found interesting is that they I can't say that because it's not the awards night. So we'll just leave it at, let's just say that your film is interesting in more than one area, so to speak, which is always exciting. For me personally, what I love most about it is, number one, I'm a writer, so I love any kind of anthology. Number two, you're an international filmmaker, and I love all of my filmmakers, but like I said, there is something that you guys have that we don't. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't know what it is, but I am such a fan of international film, and it just grows and gets bigger and bigger. And my hope is one day we can mesh United States and international together and be making films together. I think that would be lovely. And more importantly, you guys are set for Sunday. You're all on the red carpet Sunday with me, right? 11 a.m. Okay,
Yes,
so
yes.
we're bringing you back to the red carpet. Okay, wonderful. So terrific. I can't thank you enough for being so patient. I can't thank you enough for being so understanding. AJ, you have been wonderful to deal with, which I have to tell you, when you deal with this many filmmakers, you're about to go batty after a while. And of course, technical difficulties never help. So thank you so much. And of course, folks that are listening in, that are here, part of the screening, thank you guys so much for being here. I appreciate it more than I can tell you. I have like a whole 6 minutes to put it together here for the next screening block, but you guys can go to bed because I know you're exhausted, and I will make sure that I get this edited. You guys sometime this month will get the panel, the finished copy. I'll send it off to you. Now I'm going to have to sign off. You folks hopefully can follow us to the next screening, which is our Movies with Meaning block. Give us like 5 minutes to set up and we'll be on board. But if you guys go to bed, thank you guys so much for everything. Thank you. It was a joy, true joy.
Thank you, everyone. It was great.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hopefully we'll see you guys later. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you.